I wrote a little introduction.
Okay, sounds good.
So, this is episode one of the Patient Artist podcast. I am Matthew Getska, also known as the Patient Artist. My guest today is Chelsea Skye, also known as LunarLilt, Sea Skye, and the Earthy Artivist. Did I miss any?
No, that's pretty. I think that's it. Yeah, I had
Okay.
a lot before, but that's it now.
So, you are a multi dimensional artist based in Alberta, Canada. And your work ranges from paintings to poetry, digital design to wood burning. And I feel like a reductionist to just put it into those categories because your work is so much more than what can be categorized.
Thank you. That means
Yeah.
a lot.
Well, it's emotional and it's like I'm looking at it right now. It's serene and it's peaceful, it's beautiful, it's soft and gentle and it
Thank
flows.
you. Thank you. Yeah, and it's always been a struggle for me to categorize myself. So it's kind of cool to know that comes through in my art because that's always been a huge struggle.
It can be difficult to put ourselves into these, like narrow it down to just words because really we
Mhm.
are it all, everything, and we're just like an embodiment of every single emotion. So it can get really hard to describe.
Mhm. And it seems like the world is trying to do that. The world is often trying to categorize us, and I think also one way that art heals is that it doesn't need that categorization. It can take that away. It doesn't always. I mean, it does in certain circles, but you don't have to follow those, and it can be freeing.
Yeah, I think it's an automatic thing that we do is to like place words to things instead of just feel them because that's how we're taught and that's kind of how the world operates around us. And
Mhm.
judgment is automatic and it's not good or bad. It's something that
Mhm.
like we have to. It's unavoidable in a way, and it can protect us, and it can definitely be good, and it can also be harmful. But so I would like to ask because I don't want to make an assumption. Are you
Mhm.
a full-time artist?
Yes, I am. Since 2019, I've been full time.
Wow, 2 years then.
Mhm.
How does it feel?
It feels good. It so for the first bit when I started out, it was of course like so exciting, and every time I got someone contacting me to like be a client or something like that, I was like always just so surprised. And um, yeah, it can get like that poem you read earlier. It really can get isolating because I'm working from home all the time, and I know with everything that's going on in the world, lots of people feel this. But it feels really, really good to know that my art and my passion is what's supporting me ultimately. So in
Absolutely.
the end, I wouldn't ever choose a different way because I don't think I could. I don't feel like I could go back to the kind of jobs I used to work. I just, knowing now what's possible, I just don't think I could.
So I don't know a lot of your story, and I was wondering if you can maybe talk a little bit about like what were you doing before you became full-time with your artwork, um, as far as like what kind of job that you might have been working, or
um, Well, when I got out of high school, the initial push is to, of course, like choose one of the degrees and go to school. And I think I took a year off after high school, and then I went into school and thinking, okay, I need a degree. This is the way life has to go, and this is my only option. And I started out thinking I would go into social work because I really enjoyed helping people and working with people and just talking to people. And so I went into this program that allows you to do 2 years of kind of like any degree, and then you upgrade into the social work bachelor's. And so I started out in philosophy, actually, and that was really cool because I got a lot of philosophy courses in, and that was interesting. But then I ended up switching over to sociology because I thought it was closer to social work and more applicable. And then I switched over to education and English in a combined degree because I like writing and
Oh,
I like teaching and I like kids. And
yes.
so each semester I was switching my major. And then I kind of realized, and I was really, as I was working and doing the work in university and doing all these things, I was getting really sad and really like I just did not want to be doing it, and I felt like I was forcing myself. And so I decided to leave and just figure out what I actually wanted to do instead of, we spend all this money not actually maybe knowing exactly what it is we want to be doing with our lives. And so I left and I ended up working with kids. Um, and these were kids from kindergarten age to grade 6.
Okay.
And I really enjoyed it, so I ended up going to school for early learning, and I got my diploma in early learning. And I worked with a lot of kids with special needs, and that was really, really fulfilling to make these relationships with kids and just support them. And they're just, if I had to do any other job other than art, it would be working with kids, and it would be building those relationships because they're the most fulfilling, magical. They're just awesome. I really miss
Yeah.
kids at the moment.
Oh,
But yeah, I'm like, I need to, maybe I'll go do a part-time just for volunteer or something. But so then I ended up going from just regular early learning to forest school, and I got a certification to be a forest school teacher because I really was like, I want to bring kids into nature and do art and all these cool things with them. And I actually worked in a forest school for 6 months, and I was supporting 2 children with special needs, and it was awesome. But when they asked me to come back full time, I had already kind of started art part time, and I kind of had a choice and a crossroads, and it ended up, I ended up choosing art, and I left, and that was, I just had to put my faith in art in that moment, and from then on, it's been full time. And like I say, I've always been just kind of surprised. Like, I'm like, what? This can be a thing? Like, I didn't know. Nobody tells you that you can just be an artist. When I was in high school, nobody was like, hey, so do you want to go into like art?
right.
That's not really an option people put out.
It's not really modeled either in a huge way. Like we see musicians who are also artists, but if you're not
Yeah,
into music, then I mean, writers aren't really celebrities and painters aren't really celebrities for the
yeah,
most part. So it's not like at the forefront of society. We don't see it modeled for us that, unless maybe you would know somebody personally who's taken that path. But most people that I've actually known who are artists are also having a full time job, at a company um,
hmm,
to support their artwork instead of being supported through their artwork. So
yeah,
that's another reason why I'm so glad that we've actually got to meet because you are modeling for me a direction that I want to head down.
yeah, yeah. I'm so glad. Like, and I've had a lot of people contact me, and they want advice and things, and it's hard for me because I'm like, honestly, I don't know how. But I think also a lot with it's really encouraging with how the world connects over social media now. It's making it so open for artists. There's, the gatekeeping is not as prevalent anymore. You don't have to get into a gallery, and you don't, for me anyways, I'm super introverted. I'm super like, I want to be home by myself a lot of the time.
Oh, yeah.
And so I'm not into like schmoozing and like going into a gallery and like, I'm just, that's not for me. And I think maybe there's a lot of other artists who are similar, and social media really gives them the bridge to connect.
Yeah, how lucky we are that we live in this time, in this place, that we can use this tool. Like, I tell myself that if I have the internet, then I have no excuse. Like, that
Yeah.
definitely is the bridge that can connect me to any destination,
Yeah.
to any person, to any idea. It's all available right here in front of me, which unparalleled. So lucky.
Yeah.
That was actually one of the questions you just brought up that I was gonna ask was if you identify more with the term introverted or extroverted.
Yeah.
So you said you are introverted, and
Yeah.
I would also be more closely aligned to that. Like some extrovert, why is that word so hard? Extroverted tendencies, but
Yeah.
mostly I would prefer to spend a good amount of time to myself, creating, be in my zone, in my space. And
Yeah.
for people like us, it can be hard to sometimes create that space because you still have friends, family, and they want to see you, you want to see them. And when you don't have a boss and you have to create your own schedule, uh,
Mhm.
it can be hard to like set up the boundaries of okay, when am I working, what times am I setting aside to be like creative, and then having to turn down like offers and plans can be difficult when you're not going to get in trouble with like a boss or anybody except for maybe yourself falling a little behind. um,
Yeah.
how do you do that? How have you created a schedule for yourself that allows you to
Well,
be a full-time artist?
well, it's a work in progress because I tend, like I say, like I do tend to hermit away and be an introvert and be like just spend all my time working. That's my tendency, and not necessarily like. So I noticed at the very beginning of when I started going full time, the focus was on working, but it was on working and creating art. So like the art was the work, and as my business grew, it became a lot of the other things like emails and client communication and website design. Like I do everything myself, other than my accounting. I've hired an accountant, thank God,
Okay.
for my taxes and things. But everything else I do myself. So it's a work in progress. And currently, what I'm doing is I have a daily ideal schedule, or for my weekdays versus my weekends. And I try to break my days up into 3 portions. And I'm working on this. It's been really hard for me to do. I still haven't succeeded at a full day of this because usually I end up just working through the day. But my plan usually is I get up at 7 a.m. and then I do the business work for 5 hours.
You just jump straight into it.
Yeah, because I find my brain is just like, you need to get this done, and that's what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
I have it written down that what I want to do is, wake. So this is what I actually wrote. So I said, wake early, connect with self, and nourish self. And then I gave myself a bunch of ideas to do so, kind of like yoga or rituals or, just have tea. And, so that's my ideal. My ideal is that I'll wake up and do little rituals to just have that morning routine and then jump into work. But usually what happens is I jump into work.
Yeah.
um, but then I switch over at 12, so 5 hours later, to I want to switch off my phone at that point, switch off technology, and create art. And that's the work I do for the next 5 hours.
Yeah, right in the prime daylight hours too, when you have the bright sun.
Yeah, which is really important for painting. Like I want that daylight, and I don't want to waste
Mm.
it working. And
Yeah.
then in the evening, I'm really trying to switch off all the work and just rest and spend time with family and just have me time. And between each of these blocks, I'm trying to do a little ritual to like switch over and like get my mind ready to do the next thing. But these are the like high ideals, and I haven't succeeded at them yet. So if anyone's doing this now, I would love their advice too.
Yes. You have already had this thought out, and you've put it into words and into writing, and you're starting to apply it, and that's like the three steps: thoughts, words, and then actions. So the more you
Yeah,
think
I
about
love
it,
that.
talk about it, and practice doing it, you're already more than halfway there.
Yay, okay, that makes me feel a lot better.
Yeah, so you mentioned like morning rituals like drinking a cup of tea, practicing yoga, and I do some of these things too, not consistently, not every single day. And it's not always the same, but I think it's just even taking 1 minute to sit up in bed and to just smile, like just opening my blinds can be the ritual for the day.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
Letting the sun come in and like just breathing. Also,
Yeah.
every time I hear the word breathe, I have to take a deep breath.
That's a good practice.
Yes, and every time I see water, like an image of it, or hear the word water, I have to take a drink of water.
That's good because oh my gosh, I've been dehydrating myself lately because
Chelsea,
I just
no.
forget to drink.
Oh, what are we gonna do?
And I really liked how you said like it can be different every day, and it doesn't have to be every day that you practice yoga. And like there's a lot of narratives that say, oh, like do this every day or it isn't relevant or it isn't valid, and it's just like I had a lot of trouble with that because I have a lot of trouble doing everything every day. Like I mean anything every day. Like it's
Mm,
hard. So to just be like, well, whatever feels good intuitively in that moment is what's meant to happen. Like waking up and smiling at the sun and opening the window, like
mm,
that is totally a ritual. And
yeah.
like, yeah, I love that.
Well, I would like to get into the specifics of your artwork because what I've been really drawn to, I was meditating on your portfolio this morning for about a half hour. The
Yeah.
energy symbols.
hmm
Where did those come from?
So, so when I was little, I would doodle all the time, and like it was just a thing I did. And the first art piece that I ever kind of used as an energy symbol that I didn't realize I was doing at the time that I now realize I was doing was this piece that had a lot of like it was just black and white ink, and I filled up the whole page with these like doodles. But they now that I look at them, I'm like this is like my style. Like this is like the origins of my style. And my pa had just passed away, so my grandpa, but I called him pa. And before he passed away, I was creating this ink drawing, and he said his last piece of advice to me, because he himself like did art, made art, and he never did art full time. It was just his passion, but he was like, always sign your work, because he saw me making this piece. And so in the middle of me making this piece, he passed away, and so I finished it before his funeral
Wow.
and signed it and made a photocopy for myself and put the original with him in the casket. And that for me, I was like, I was creating that link with him through the art, and I still have that photocopy, of course, to this day. And
Yeah.
so that was where I first I think that's where they began. Yeah. And I did the same thing for my Nana in early 2020 when she passed away. And like I made an energy symbol as I make them now. It looks more like these ones. And I did that same process. But that is where I'd say they started.
That's beautiful. Wow. What a touching
Thank
story.
you.
So you were rather close with him,
Yeah.
and you were there around the time of, you were there with him through the process of the end of his life and his transition to the other side.
Yeah, I actually watched him pass away. So I was right in the room as he passed away.
Hmm.
And I was pretty young. Like I think it was the first death I witnessed, um, and the first like close family member that had passed.
I'm so glad that you were able to be there. Like,
Thank you.
yeah, I connect with that. I've lost two grandparents in the past 3 years, and I was very close with my grandpa right at the end, like closer than we had ever been for the last couple
Right.
months of his life. And I went to visit him all the time when he was staying in a care facility, and
Mm-hmm.
I came there to write down his stories. I brought my computer and I would just word for word type everything that he was telling me, and
That's
so I was
awesome.
able to share that with like other family members after he was gone.
Wow.
Um, and then the fact that he encouraged you to sign your work because he thought that that was going to add to its value or just increase and make it more complete. I like that too.
Yeah. It was a big piece of wisdom that I carry with me. I don't ever not, oh, I try to never not sign a work. Like, I do see people on social media that don't sign their work, and I was like, it looks more aesthetically pleasing. Maybe I should do that. But I followed my pa's advice. I'm like, I'm always going to sign it. It's always going to have my name. It's like you're owning it in a way, I think.
Yeah, it's your copyright. Your
Yeah,
claim.
for sure. It's also your.
A few months ago, I just started signing my artwork as well because my grandma really encouraged it.
I love how that's like a parallel.
Yeah, she's actually also the one who encouraged me to like increase prices and not let original paintings go for $10, $12.
Yeah.
So good to have that wisdom from
Yeah.
our elders.
Yes. Is she an artist herself?
Yeah, she is. She's extremely creative and artistic. She used to work in the building that I live in now, which was once a furniture factory, 50 years ago.
Wow.
And her job, and now it's been converted into apartments, and her job was to draw and sketch the furniture, like cabinets and couches and big chests and silverware sets, and it would end up being newspaper ads.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's a super creative job. Like, that's totally art.
Yeah, and at that time, like they definitely had cameras and they could have taken pictures of the furniture, but they thought the art was more intriguing to people, and that made them want to come in and see for themselves.
I agree. That's a cool way to share.
And then my grandfather was a watercolor artist, and I actually ended up with some of his watercolor paints, which are about 40 years old, and used them in my paintings.
I was gonna say, do you use them?
Yeah.
Or save them? Yeah.
Yeah, they work perfectly fine. Like those things last forever and ever. What are you working on right now? Are you creating something as we speak?
Well, I had planned to just sketch another like an auric portrayal, which is one of my new things. I've been doing them for myself and my pets as I practice and begin. But I actually am just like engrossed in this conversation, so I didn't end up picking up the stylus because it would have been a digital piece. So I might start, but at the moment I have it in front of me and I'm like waiting to.
Oh, okay. So you said that there was a difference in your schedule between like weekdays and weekends. Do you still, is creating and painting, drawing, anything of the sort part of your weekend, or do you limit it to the weekdays?
No, it's definitely like it just bleeds through into everything. And like even the me time, I allow myself like if during my me time I want to draw or paint or make art, that's totally fine. As long as I'm just doing it for me, it can end up as like a piece I share. Primarily it's for me, and I have the same kind of philosophy on the weekends. It's like if I feel like making art, I totally will, but I don't want to pressure myself and say, okay, I need this piece and I need to release a piece today. So, that's kind of how I go about it on the weekends.
Do you share all of your artwork, or are there pieces that you do just keep for yourself? And how do you know if it's ready to go out into the world, or if you would rather keep it and hang on to it?
I share most of my artwork, but I do have my art journal, which has been really therapeutic because I had some advice from my friend, and she also does like energy readings for me, and she was like, it'll be really beneficial for you to make art for yourself because I had been making art for the business and for to share for so long. So I had a hard time doing that. I'm like, oh no, I have no time. But then I ended up starting this journal that has blank pages instead of lines, and it like set me free. And I was like, oh, now I'm making art for myself in here. It's just like coming natural. And I don't think I'd ever really I've shared like a few like pictures of what's in my art journal, but it's really personal, so most of it I won't share. So that's kind of a space I go to for that kind of work. And the way that I know I want to share a piece is, I don't know. I'm a little bit of a perfectionist with things, so it has to be pretty like polished. I also don't agonize over it before I post it because I'm like, oh, if I don't like it later, I'll just delete it or get rid of it. There's
Right.
no, like, I don't need to keep it there. So I guess it's just kind of what I feel in the moment, and that's kind of what ends up happening.
Yes. I think maybe I forgot to mention this towards the beginning, but it's something that I've already spoken with you about when we were planning this, which it's been weeks in the making, and I'm just happy that we're here. Like it's
Me too.
happening. Here we are. We're doing it. We had a theme established, which was patience for the Patient Artist podcast, and we're both patient people, I believe, and we we wait our turn and we trust in the divine timing of life. Things don't happen overnight, hardly ever. Is always something you have to, like, for the bigger goals, for the things that are actually going to bring us deep, satisfying fulfillment. Um, it can take years and years, or at least lots of consecutive efforts, and usually a time commitment to reach those things that are going to bring us like the deepest fulfillment. Of course, I would love to wake up tomorrow morning and realize that, oh, I have a million people looking at my artwork or something
Yeah.
like that. But it's super unlikely, and it does happen for some, and that is great for when that does happen to people. Um,
Mhm.
but it's not something that we can count on. It's definitely not expected. The expectation is that, at least the one that I would hold for myself, is that I keep showing up, keep putting in the effort. This is something I've struggled with, and I'm sure many others, to
Mhm.
continue to stay committed to an idea, because it can be so exciting when you have this thought and I want to become a full-time artist, and you're still
Yeah.
working full-time at your day job, for example. So there's a lot of in between that goes into it, and
Yeah.
it's you have to trust in that timing, in that process, and not to overlook the beautiful balance that is like the transition, shifting from where you are to where you want to be.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And the trust, when the trust comes in, like you say, trust the timing. And for some, it's going to be maybe quick, and maybe that's just their path. And for some, it will take longer, and it doesn't mean that either one is more valid or more valued. It's just different. And the longer path, you might find more jewels along the way. It's just like a longer art piece. Like sometimes the art pieces that take me longer, I love more. I mean, I
Yeah.
love the quick ones too, and it goes both ways for me too. Sometimes I feel like I'm patient, and sometimes, especially in creative projects, I'm like, I need to get this done now.
Yeah. There's deadlines sometimes that we have to comply with, that we put in place for ourselves.
Yeah, definitely self-imposed in my case
Yeah,
because
and it's good to stay on track with that too, I think. Like holding yourself accountable, and even when it gets tedious and maybe annoying, and you've been doing the same thing, or you've been working on the same project, or working on the same writing, coming back to it day after day, you just kind of want to abandon it at times. Maybe taking a short break to come back with fresh eyes instead of walking away altogether, but sometimes
yeah.
it's also necessary to walk away from a project, and it's also important to communicate that to others who might be involved. If this is like a note to
Hmm.
myself, because sometimes I'll walk away from a project without telling the other people involved.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, I just exposed myself. But no, it's true. I have to acknowledge it because I do that, and I don't want to do that to others. So
Yeah. Well, and I don't know if there is, for myself anyways, I always am like, okay, there's going to come a point where, I think I've reached where I want to where I want to be, and I won't be like pushing forward anymore and like trying to get somewhere. But I don't know if there ever will be that point. The farther along I go down with my business, I'm like, I get to a threshold that I thought I'd be satisfied at, and then I just want to continue. And so the journey, fast or slow, it just feels like it's just never ending anyways.
It is. I agree with that completely. Once you reach a goal that you had set for yourself, like a big goal, a life goal, once you get there, it's hard to enjoy it. I mean, you are proud of yourself. You do enjoy the fact that you made this accomplishment happen. And then it's like, what's next?
Yeah.
It's
I'm bored now.
impossible.
Okay. Yeah. And I'm definitely that kind of person that's like, on to the next thing. Like, I really tried this. I can't remember. Oh, so I did a shop update and I usually don't do shop updates, but I had prepared for it for a while, and it was a big thing for me, and I released it, and I was so worried that nothing would sell, because I usually sell digital art and client work and different things, and this was a new thing for me. Something sold, and I was so grateful, and it was my first sale of the update. But I had I had trouble, usually I have trouble sitting in that gratitude and just staying there for a minute, because it's you're trying to get to that moment, and then it's hard to stay in there. So in that moment I tried to just actually sit in the gratitude and let it soak in, because I had achieved something I wanted to achieve, and it's hard to give ourselves that moment, I think.
Yes, and you definitely deserved that moment after putting in like days and days of efforts, late nights.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's good to celebrate your achievements.
If we're never giving ourselves that positive feedback, we get burnt out, I think. At least I do. Definitely prone to just work myself and burn myself out.
Mm-hmm. I want to say congratulations on making that sale and updating your shop, and your site looks beautiful, by the way.
Thank you.
Yes.
It took a long time, and it caught me off guard. I was like, oh, okay, now I'm just redoing my whole website, because I did not plan to, and it just snowballed, and one thing led to another, and
Yep, once you started, you couldn't stop, you couldn't slow down.
yeah.
So, for anybody who's listening to the YouTube version of this, in the description, you'll be able to find a link to Chelsea's website where you can see her portfolio. And I definitely recommend that you head there, maybe even right now. Um, there's also going to be a link to her Instagram, her Facebook, and her Patreon, all worth checking out. What inspired you to create your community on Patreon? Why did you want to move to that platform? And what is it that you're offering there?
So I'm a really big believer in multiple income streams, and especially for artists, I think it's so important, because at any time, when you're working for yourself and you're doing your own business, at any time, one thing can be supporting you, and then months later maybe it's not. So multiple income streams are really helpful, and so Patreon is just one of the ways that I do that. I also was really drawn to Patreon because it's kind of like a more intimate community, where everyone there is really there. Everyone there is really wanting to communicate and connect and talk about the art more and things. And right now I have a small community on there, and it's growing. My idea for it is that we'll have discussions and paint nights, and we have a Discord right now, which is kind of quiet because it's so small, but I'm hoping it'll get bigger and bigger, and we'll be able to just be friends, basically. I just want to really connect deeply. What I offer on there is, with the highest tier, I give out monthly mail. So every month I give out prints and stickers and notes and poems, and I encourage people to write back to me. We can be pen pals. And I also offer custom artwork, so people can every month I give a prompt, and people can submit their answer to the prompt. So far, it's been lots of the submissions have been poetry as an answer, and then I'll create either an energy symbol or a custom art piece or an auric portrayal based on their answer. And one person gets it. I pick one answer a month, and yeah. And then other than that, I have a lot of digital things and a lot of offerings on there. But those are the two big ones that have really been enjoyable on Patreon so far.
Yeah, so you're sending people mail, you're communicating directly and building relationships and friendships on there and
Yeah,
community and everybody's it's a firm decision to be there, you know. Um, it's not a passive place, so everybody is wanting to connect and I haven't heard of that before that you're offering custom piece, like somebody will get chosen
yeah.
at random, is it?
Yeah, so I'll choose whatever answer resonates with me that I feel I can make an art piece from.
Okay, so not completely random, but they make a submission, and then
Yeah.
if you are vibing with that submission, then they might end up with a custom piece of art.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's really fun, and I think it's a good way to connect, and especially like bridge. Like my custom designs are quite expensive for some people, so it's a good way to just have that opportunity.
Hmm.
If if you can't pay the full price for,
Yeah.
just bridges that a little bit for people.
So if it's okay to ask this question, I don't know some if you'll be comfortable to get into this, but I'm curious, like even without having to state numbers or anything, unless you feel comfortable, but how did you come to decide your rates? Because of course, art it has infinite value, and it's
Mm,
hard to place, you know, prices and a monetary like constraint to it, but you also have to in order to sell it and to get it out into the
yeah.
world and to be able to keep doing that, supporting yourself, that you can keep making it and creating more. What was the process of figuring out how to charge?
When I started out my whole like art journey, I have a friend who I refer to often because she's amazing. She's my best friend, and we actually met like when I first started going full time, and we met in at the forest school. And she is the friend I referred to earlier that also works with me on energy work. And she really guided me because I'd never seen a model for like an intuitive business, and she really guided me, especially at the beginning. And one of her pieces of advice were like, price it at what feels good, and then once that starts feeling heavy to you, up price it until it feels light again. I followed that for my whole like the whole time I've been in business, and so individual like I always give price quotes individually. It's per product or per project and per product as well. It's intuitively priced, I would say, because I feel out the project, I feel out the whole energy of everything, and just give the price that feels like it's worth the energy I'm going to be putting in. And my pricing, people often ask, like, what do you price? Like, I know a lot of artists have asked me, how do you price your works? And my answer is always, I don't have like a formula. I don't have
Hmm.
a specific minimum or maximum. It's just whatever feels good. And through the growth of my business, I've uppriced quite a bit because it just feels lighter. As I grow, the price raises and it feels better to have a certain price that will give return for my time and not make me burn out, so I can continue to make art. So yeah, I would say it's intuitively priced, and I just feel it out. And I don't negotiate on my pricing. If I say a price and somebody says, well, can it be this much? I don't,
No.
maybe it's not the time for you, maybe it's not right for you or me, and maybe we can reconnect in the future, but right now that's my price. So I don't negotiate once I give a price quote. That's important to me. That's an important boundary. But yeah, very based on intuition is what
Hmm.
I'd say.
Intuitive business. I've not heard
Yeah,
those words together before.
I feel like it's a new concept. It's not. I mean, it's not. I'm sure it's not a new concept, but it was new to me when I started out.
Hmm. There's no formula.
No.
Yeah, just see how it feels and go based off of what your heart and mind are telling you.
Yeah, and do that with like so much love for yourself. Like value yourself enough to be like, yeah, this is worth $1,000.
Mm,
Like that
yes.
part's important.
Yes, I think so many people need to hear that. Value yourself, value your work. Your time is worth more than you think.
Yeah, a lot of the time it is. And people who love your work are willing to pay what you feel it's worth. If you hold that energy of this is what it's worth for me,
Hmm.
the people who come to you that are your right clients are willing to pay that.
Yes. that's like going to say people will treat you how you teach them, or how you. I think I
Hmm.
said that backwards, but you teach people how to treat
Actually,
you.
yeah, I know that saying.
Yeah, the same goes with you are showing people your value, and they will have to acknowledge it because you know it yourself. If you let other people decide for you, then there's just well, you have no say.
You know, the thing with art and also like having your own business with art is you're not answering to anyone else, you're answering to yourself. And like if you say here's my price and it doesn't work for someone, you know, then that's just, it doesn't work for them and you're not answering to them. And you know, if someone says can you do this for me and you say, like, even not to do with pricing, but on another note, if someone's asking for something and it's just not right for you, then it's just not right for you. And you can say no, and you can say no to the opportunities that don't light you up and say yes to the ones that do light you up,
Mm.
and feel that abundance of like, I can say no to these and I'll have more come in. I don't have to be, you know, doing things I don't want to do or for cheaper costs. Like, if this opportunity doesn't work out, there'll be 10 more coming in.
You can say no. This is a theme in my life right now as I'm learning to set boundaries with myself so that I can set better boundaries with others because it all starts within, right? And I just got my first professional tarot reading done, and that's what we talked about, setting boundaries with self. And
Yeah.
towards the end, like the phrase came up, just say no when you need it. Just say no. And I'm gonna turn that into an artwork. I actually started a sketch of that, but
That
uh,
to me sounds like an energetic piece. I mean, I think all art is energetic, but
hmm.
you're doing, like, that's so, like, you're transmuting that and like affirming that in an art piece. That's so cool.
Yeah, it has personal meaning, and then it's gonna mean something else to people who see it. Have different connotations with it, but
Yeah.
hopefully, if it speaks to me, I know it will speak to someone else. So I'm gonna tell you another recent experience that I had and see if you can relate to it. I made an artwork, a small one, that I rushed through, and it was just for the sake of getting out of my head, and I was kind of wanting to quickly make something before I would actually move on to the big piece that I'm working on. So
Hmm.
I just like hurried up and made something, and I didn't think it was good. I think it was very sloppy because I know that I could actually make something look better to me than what that was. But I shared it anyway, and
Hmm.
I got such positive feedback on that piece that I didn't even like. More so than on like some of my favorite pieces that I share got like less comments than that one did. Everybody seemed to like it, and I still don't like it. It doesn't look good to me. It could be better. I see what could be better about it, but it spoke to others and made me
Yeah.
realize like okay, it's worth sharing the even what I consider a mistake is still has value to people and is worth sharing.
I 100% relate to that because I don't know why that happens to me all the time. And then the art piece is still like up on my social media or something like that, and I'm like, this is still bugging me. But it's like people love this more than the pieces that I love. So it's funny. It's interesting. I don't know why that happened. I 100% relate to that. And there is something to be said too about when we do an art piece quickly. A lot of the time when I channel an art piece and it's super quick and it's just like there and done,
Mm.
I'm like, in my mind I'm like, well, that was something that was channeled and needed to come out. Sometimes the reason I think maybe I don't like the art piece is because I'm embodying a consciousness that either is abrasive to me, that is like coming up to be accepted, or is something that other people need that I don't necessarily need. I don't really know how to put it into words, but that's kind of what comes through to me sometimes when I make an art piece, especially when it comes out really quickly.
Mm. I think I got it. Like maybe the when that happens, it's meant to be for others. It's not even for us. We're just the vessel that's bringing it forth.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
That's
Huh.
kind of what I feel sometimes, especially when it's like I don't like this, and then like everybody else likes it.
Hmm. Oh, that's an awesome perspective.
Thank you.
They say like giving is for the giver. It feels good to give, sometimes better than it does to receive. Although it's not always true. Sometimes giving does nothing for the giver, and it's just that we have an abundance of creations or time or any resource, and it doesn't do us any harm to just like pour that out to somebody else. Like we hardly notice, because if we have been taking good care of ourselves and we feel full, then that's just the overflow.
Yeah, I love that. That's so true.
Do you ever make time lapses of yourself making art?
Yeah, a lot of the time when it's a physical piece, I'm like I'll video and then make a reel, so like a video of the process. So it's not exactly a time lapse, but I want to do that with physical pieces. I have a tripod. I just gotta figure out how to do it right. But with
Yeah.
the digital, it records everything in the background. So I do like time lapses on my digital pieces, and sometimes I share those.
I'll definitely have to check it out because I don't think. Well, maybe I've seen one. I can actually remember one with the. It was the snake on
Right.
a canvas, and I did watch a clip of you painting that. I like having these type of videos playing while I'm creating my work, and then it feels like I have like a buddy, like a painting partner.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so true. I want to do paint nights. Like even if we're just like chatting on some group chat and then we're painting at the same time. I think that would be so cool.
Hmm. So there's a parking lot outside my window, and there's a brick wall that divides it from the next parking lot. And
Hmm.
they came and they painted it white, and now every morning, uh, some muralists are out there from 8 a.m. until dark,
Oh,
and
that's cool.
yeah, I'm watching them paint, and they don't know me, and I don't know them, but like we're doing it together. We're painting together.
That's so
I'll have to go talk to them before they're finished.
yeah. That's cool, and I think we can really like because that is one of the huge things that art does for us is that connection. So I think we can really benefit from making art that is in connection with others, even if it's
Hmm.
from a distance.
What sparks your inspiration?
At first, I remember when I was younger, I wanted to be a writer, and poetry really inspired my work, and it still does. So a lot of the time, I'll see a poem, and I'll just want to make an art piece with it in mind.
Hmm.
But yeah, nature, people, everything, and a lot. I guess I would say everything under the lens of emotion, because it always comes down to a feeling for me. I think that's the one constant. Inspiration perceived from people, nature, poetry, songs, other art, and then the feeling from it is what I make the art based on. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
But
Hmm.
yeah, I think that's what it comes down to is the emotion behind everything, behind the existence, behind the whole world.
That's deep. Damn.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's what, inspiration is, obviously, as everything is, a form of energy and frequency. And when we tap into that and kind of like magnify other things through that lens, and I think every artist is doing this, even if they don't maybe verbalize it. But I think it's something that everyone just does in life.
Hmm. Have you been making time to get outside, like taking walks, going to parks? You did mention to me, and I've seen a couple pictures, but I'd like to see more if you have them from your camping trip.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I definitely do. And then, like I said, when I get caught up in that work with no end and no stop, I don't. And then I really feel the effects. Like when I was making my new website and all that, it was like 4 days straight of me just at the computer, and I felt the
Yeah.
effects of that because I didn't go outside. But
Mm.
when that was done, I went outside, I made time for it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like the difference here. And when I can really get outside for like a week on end, in nature by myself, or well, I'm usually with my partner. At that point, it's like so nourishing and can like really reset me. And I come back, and the things I'm doing are usually like really different, which is funny. Like there's a huge shift in my art a lot of the time when I do that. Like it. Like a lot of the time, I'm like,
Mm.
oh, I don't feel like it. I just want to work. I have so much to do, but it's like worth it, and I need to. When I'm inside working, I'm so in my head, and I'm like, big problems seem so huge. I mean, small problems seem so huge. I mean, I guess it's all relative, but when I get outside, it's just like taking an out breath finally, and I'm just like, oh, okay, this is the whole world, not my screen, not like that one art piece, not what's inside my house. It's this.
Yeah, it gives a lot of perspective to see what everybody
Yeah.
else is out and doing. Have you heard of the doorway effect?
No, I haven't.
Okay, I love telling people this because you've experienced it when you walk into a room and then you're wondering why did I come in here? So when you walk into through a frame theoretically or just into a new setting, it can even just be when you turn around in the same room, but when you have like a fresh scene in front of you, you also have a fresh state of mind. Everything that you're thinking shifts with what you're seeing.
I love that because it's like, oh, I love that so much. I'm going to use that reminder as a reminder to like just shift my perspective. I've heard people do that in yoga too. Like when they do a handstand, it's like a whole shift, and
Mm,
I think that's just really cool because it can feel so hard to shift our perspectives, but that's such a way to do it, a simple way to remember to do it. If we can get out of our minds to remember that long enough to do it, then I'm sure it's magic. And I know it's magic because when I go outside, it happens.
yes, magic is real. Um,
Yeah.
I think for people who have experienced depression or are experiencing depression, that can be most beneficial to them. Walk into a new room, walk outside if you can, and your thoughts will change. I've experienced that at least.
Well, and that's like, I know I go through a lot of anxiety and things, especially when I'm home alone in my head. So I think that would really help work me through that because it can feel like you're stuck in your own mind.
Yeah. I was reading something on your website before we were talking, and actually, let me pull it up so that I'm not misquoting you. Okay, I'll start from the beginning. What if joy is already there, already right there, an undercurrent waiting for you to swim deep enough below the mind noise to find it? Yes, I love it. It's right there. It's available to us now in this moment.
Yeah,
You just have to quiet the mind, quiet the thoughts. Peace and joy are currently available. It's right there.
yeah, yeah. And we can run around trying to find it and never, it can be so long before we're like, it's been there all along.
Yeah.
Because it is the running around, for me anyways, is the running around trying to get to it that stops it for me, or that hides it.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yes, I agree. I feel that. It's so well said. I hope
Thank
that
you.
a lot of people can read the messages that you're sharing on there, and I will be rereading them and looking forward to new journal entries from you on your website.
Thank you.
Um, Definitely. Thank you. Thank you for sharing all of the beautiful things that you share, your words and your art. It's truly healing and beautiful and a gift to the world.
Oh, thank you so much. And honestly, like, I get as much from sharing it as I think anyone else does.
Mm.
Thank you for everything that you do and the connection. I'm really happy that we've connected, and I love your art and your creations and the energy you put into them. And I'm just really grateful we could have this chat because you're an amazing person, and I'm just so glad to know you.
Oh, thank you. It's all mutual. Have a great day. I'll talk to you again soon.
Yes, you too. Thank you so much.